I'm Kunal Ghosh, founder and CEO of Inscopix, and it really is my distinct privilege and an honor for the entire Inscopix team to be hosting all of you today at this very special event, the DECODE Summit. I'll make a few remarks about the state of the field, so to speak, and frame the summit in that context. Today, we stand as a community on the brink of a revolution in brain science. There are unprecedented advances occurring in technology, large-scale brain research efforts across the globe, and a nascent but emerging neuroscience, neurotech industry that are all converging to enable a really transformative era in neuroscience and mental health. A period that will see, no doubt, rapid technological innovation, breakthrough scientific discoveries about how the brain works in both health and in disease. The hope really is that the rising tide of progress will herald a new generation of therapeutics to treat, manage, and perhaps ultimately cure brain disorders in the years to come. The economic and human cost of brain disease, as we all know, and this is not lost upon you, is enormous. Some statistics, and these are really staggering, the economic cost of neurological and psychiatric disorders and diseases is today estimated at 1.2 trillion annually in the US alone, and 2.5 trillion globally. Those are big numbers. The cost is only projected to escalate. And of course, the toll on human suffering, the social cost, is immeasurable, incalculable. The main reason, of course, as many of you know gathered here today, for this debilitating toll on society and the huge economic cost that we have to bear is the lack of effective treatments, which stems in large part from just the sheer ignorance of how the brain works, how the brain functions in health, and how it malfunctions in disease. Recognizing this gathering storm of brain disorders and the gap that exists in the mechanistic understanding of the brain, governments across the globe have taken action by organizing and investing in large-scale, fairly large-scale brain research efforts. In the US, as many of us know, President Obama in April 2013, in his State of the Union earlier that year, launched the BRAIN Initiative, which stands for Brain Research Through Advancing Innovative Neurotechnologies, to revolutionize our understanding, in his words, of the brain in action, and to better treat brain disorders across the spectrum, from autism to Alzheimer's to PTSD. In 2014, when the president, a year after the launch of the BRAIN Initiative, issued his all-hands-on-deck call to action for the BRAIN Initiative, really asking for the private sector to step up, we at Inscopix asked ourselves, how can we, at that point, a still very young neuroscience startup with a team of only about 10, how can we make an authentic and impactful contribution to such an ambitious endeavor, to such an ambitious project? That is the genesis of the DECODE grant program, and that is how the DECODE grant program was born. Inscopix was recognized as a private sector partner of the BRAIN Initiative, and we launched the DECODE grant program, which stands for Deciphering the Circuit Basis of Disease, DECODE, at its core to be a scientific, and might I add, a philanthropic endeavor by Inscopix to crowdsource the discovery of neural circuit signatures of brain disease by awarding technology, training, and software grants to an ambitious group of investigators that are assembled here today and that spent the most of yesterday presenting their scientific progress. We knew there were great advantages to being a nimble Silicon Valley startup. We mobilized our small team at that point, again, just a team of about 10, solicited and received 50 terrific grant proposals covering the broad spectrum of diseases. Constituted an NIH-style study section comprising of some of the world's leading neuroscientists and brain disease experts, including, and I'm not naming the entire panel here, but including folks like Huda Zoghbi and Eric Nestler, who unfortunately aren't able to make it today to this auspicious gathering, selected 10 top proposals from that group of 50 or so proposals, and disseminated the awards, and all of this in just 6 months. The president issued his call in 2014, early 2014. We got together, said, what can we do? In a couple of months, created this RFP addressing the question of how can we uncover, how can we decipher circuit signatures that underlie disease, the idea of discovering circuit endophenotypes. Got the RFP out, received 50 proposals, quickly conducted a review session, rigorously conducted by scientific experts, and literally chose and awarded these grants at SFN 2014 in DC, all in the course of 6 months. Our mission when we were thinking about organizing the DECODE Summit here today was to first and foremost bring together this very first class of DECODE awardees. And there are folks like Dr. Mario Capecchi here in the audience, Dr. Mark Baer here in the audience, who are among that very first class of DECODE awardees. First, to celebrate them, to really celebrate their accomplishments within the context of the program. And certainly, a large part of yesterday, assessing how well they've progressed in an action-oriented manner with respect to the pursuit of the understanding of their circuit signatures in the context of their diseases, whether it's OCD in the context of Dr. Capecchi's work or autism in the context of Dr. Baer's work. We quickly realized, however, that the DECODE Summit could be much bigger than just celebrating and working with our DECODE awardees. We realized that we had before us an opportunity to broaden the audience and to really help foster an open dialogue across multiple stakeholders on the sheer question of the value of a circuit-based approach to understanding the brain and brain disease, with the ultimate goal, of course, of paving the way for a new era of therapeutics and potentially, ultimately, cures. The audience here today, as I see all of you assembled in this room, comprise leaders from research, academia, innovators, investors, pharma, biotech leaders, nonprofits, patient advocacy groups, and government agencies. A truly multi-stakeholder group with thought leaders and change makers from across our field and beyond. Today, throughout the rest of the day, you'll hear from the first class of DECODE awardees, a selected group of them. You'll also hear from other world experts in brain disease research. There will be panels, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, debating, as I said, the sheer value of circuit-based approaches for brain disease research and drug discovery, and also debating the kind of ecosystem that is needed to help advance brain science and translate some of the foundational knowledge that the DECODE awardees and others in the community are generating into the clinic eventually. You'll also get a chance to interact and participate in breakout sessions in the afternoon. We really value the cross-fertilization, and we are hoping to nurture some of that later this afternoon. We have a full day planned for you, and in a little bit I'll introduce my scientific co-founder, Mark Schnitzer, who will go into the program in a little bit of greater detail and literally kick off the day's events. Before I introduce Mark, I did wish to, however, leave you with 5 key messages. 1, as I said at the outset, today we really are at the brink of a revolution in brain science. Make no mistake about it. This is a revolution that might take a decade, might take a couple of decades, but will eventually give rise to a new generation of therapeutics to treat and ultimately cure brain disorders. 2, there are multiple government-led and other large-scale brain research efforts around the world seeking to enable this revolution that we're on the brink of. A public-private partnership, echoing President Obama's comments himself, with the inclusion of industry, is not just needed, it is imperative to help augment these efforts and catalyze the revolution that we see before us. Central to these efforts, government efforts, public-private sector efforts, is the realization that revolutionizing our understanding of the brain will require a fundamental understanding of how brain circuits work. 4, decoding the brain one circuit at a time will require an ecosystem of companies enabling neural circuit research with new tools, analytics, platforms, solutions. A remarkable opportunity exists here today to help spawn this ecosystem, to catalyze brain research. And I, on behalf of Inscopix, tell you today that Inscopix stands ready to help lead the way as much as it can with the resources that it has at its disposal. Last, and certainly not least, perhaps most importantly, to tackle these grand challenges of neuroscience, we really must work together. It's an era of sharing. We see the sharing economy all around us, with the Ubers of the world, the Airbnbs of the world. Let's bring this to science and to neuroscience. This means really rising above the individual PI or postdoc-driven research model and really tackling together, the grand challenges of neuroscience. This will require openness to the private sector, openness to philanthropy, openness to industry, sharing of data, and sharing of results. thank you very much again for coming out here today. I truly hope we'll have a productive and rewarding session.